Good morning, good morning, good morning, and good morning. And welcome to the Africa Weekly Talk. Today's subject on the docket is the same old adage of divide and conquer. Same old adage of divide and conquer, which is now creeping its ugly head in the United States of America among Black folks who consider themselves to be foundational Black America or ADOS, American descendants of slaves, against Black folks from either Africa, Caribbean, South America, or the Black folks from the rest of the world. And this issue goes way back when I first came across a video that was done by Stephen Osunsami, a Nigerian American, when he interviewed ADOS, one of some of these ADOS members, about their stance against Cynthia Erizo, also a Nigerian British actress, when she took the role of Harriet Tubman. But then quite recently, also, there's been a lot of these FBAs talking about their reasons why they want to delineate themselves from Africa and other Black migrants from the Caribbean who just migrated into the United States of America. And that also brought about a video that a guy was talking about. I mean, this is a guy, I think I've watched one of two clips of his videos. I mean, very smart dude. Has some valid points, very conservative on certain things, Black empowerment and so on and so forth. And I agree with him on a lot of those things. But he also came out and said something that I staunchly disagree with him in that same video clip, where he talked about, since Blacks from the Africa as well as the Caribbean don't have the same experience in terms of slavery of the Black African American in America, these people don't have the right to speak about anything concerning Black people in the United States of America. And I staunchly disagree with him on this take. But fellas, before I dive into this subject, let's go ahead and watch a clip of these ADOS and what they are talking about and their belief in regards to Black immigrants from Africa, from the Caribbean, and foundational Black Americans or Americans descendants of slaves. And I'll come back and dissect this whole video and give you my opinion on this issue. So let's go ahead and watch this small clip about these people and what they are talking about.
Do Black immigrants have the same experiences as Black Americans who are the descendants of slaves? The debate reignited after Cynthia Erivo was named to play Harriet Tubman, a role that she later received an Oscar nomination for. The controversial group leading the charge, ADOS, or the American Descendants of Slaves. Our Steve Osunsami met with its founder.
Here are the nominees for
When the names of the nominees for Best Actress were read last night at the Academy Awards, Cynthia Erivo was one of them.
Cynthia Erivo, Harriet.
Stand up, take my people with me.
She is only the 11th Black actress ever nominated for an Oscar in a leading role, and had she won, would have become only the second Black woman to win the award after Halle Berry in 2001. But in the community whose story she helped tell in this important film, there is a small and unfortunate cloud that has rained on her performance this entire award season. And it's a question of her Blackness.
Harriet Tubman.
The title role of Harriet Tubman, a challenge for any actress, and Erivo rose to the occasion, paying tribute to the Black abolitionists who freed hundreds of slaves and remains one of the most important figures in Black American history.
God was watching, but my feet was my own. Running, bleeding, climbing, nearly drowned, nothing to eat for days and days, man. I made it.
But when the film's producers first announced that it was Erivo getting the job, it didn't go over well with many Black Americans because Erivo is British.
So there's people who took issue with you being from England.
From England and African.
While promoting the film on New York City radio, she took a moment to defend herself with WQHT host Ebro Darden.
World, I think there's a misconception that when you're in the UK, you sort of get to bypass all the awful things that happen to you as a black person, but you don't.
On Twitter, the hashtags boycott Harriet and Harriet deserves better found life. Online, a new group of black intellectuals found their voice with this debate.
If Harriet was part of your lived experience as an ADOS, you could bring it to that role.
They are the American descendants of slavery, or ADOS for short, and they argue that black Americans who are the children of African immigrants have it entirely different than African descendants of slaves. In Atlanta, we met one of the group's founders, Yvette Carnell.
Well, there's an expectation that Yvette is xenophobic and Yvette hates black immigrants, and that's just not the case.
She told us that she is ADOS, but says that I am not because my parents immigrated here from Nigeria.
I'm lighter than you. I'm far lighter than you. But like the cost that we bear is because of being brought here as slaves is very different.
We got very personal.
Just because you have melanin and kinky hair doesn't mean you have the same background and you are tied to that kind of systemic oppression in this country. So yes, you can come from Nigeria, you can come from Ghana. You're kind of the opposite of what we are, though. You're the elite where you come from. We're the bottom caste here. We just look alike.
It sounds like you're saying that the American part of African American is more important to African descendants of slaves.
I think it's essential because we built the richest country in the world. But we've always been very, very giving and very accepting of black immigrants in this country. We always have. But it's a problem when you look at the number of these roles, especially lead roles, which are going to other groups and other people, even though we fought for the opportunity to be in those roles. And we didn't get to school in London. Like, we didn't go from Nigeria to London to different background. You look at Cynthia Erivo, it's not the same as my background. I'm a bottom caste in this country. That's different than what you came from. And so we don't have access to the things and opportunities that we fought for.
They think something is deeply wrong when a British actor of Nigerian descent is chosen to play the role of Martin Luther King in Selma, and a British actress plays his wife, Coretta Scott King. They see similar issues with the leading roles in Best Picture winner 12 Years a Slave and the thriller Get Out, which also won an Oscar. Even the dean of black actors, Samuel L. Jackson, is taking sides in the debate. During this interview with New York's Hot 97, he points out that Get Out's Daniel Kaluuya is a Brit of Ugandan descent, and he wonders if a different actor should have played the role of a black American in an interracial relationship.
I tend to wonder, what would that movie have been with an American brother who really understands that in a way? Because, I mean, Daniel grew up in a country where, you know, they've been interracial dating for 100 years.
And they're not just upset with the movies. They say that black immigrants and their children are taking seats in American colleges and businesses that are meant for the descendants of slaves. And they don't seem to acknowledge that many black people in Europe, the Caribbean, and elsewhere can also trace their ancestors back to slavery. They point to this 2015 study that shows that black immigrants are more likely than African Americans to earn a better living, have college degrees, and live in two-parent households. ADOSs don't believe that these families should benefit from affirmative action.
It was never meant for white women. It was never meant for immigrants or just people of color. It was meant for us. Everybody else just kind of shoehorned their way in.
That's where I'm a bit conflicted with the narrative, because especially when migrants come here, they will use that same talking point to say, well, black, specifically foundational black Americans are lazy because, you know, you guys are capable of doing it. You just don't do it. You guys can do the extra. He did it. Like, so if he did it, then y'all should all be able to do it. So that, I understand where you're coming from, but people will actively try to use that against a lot of black people.
So let me make the distinction or the delineation. I'm a foundational black American.
Okay.
My mama black, my daddy black. I did not come from any place other than here. Having said that, I don't go to Jamaica and speak on what's happening in the grill. I do not go to Ghana and speak what's happening in Ghana. I do not go to Nigeria and talk about what's happening in Lagos because it's none of my business. It is not my place. Having said that, the first thing I said was that the system is working exactly how it's supposed to. When you come over here from the Caribbean, from Africa, from South America, whichever type of black that you are, you get an immigrant experience. You do not have 400 years of chattel slavery hanging over your head. You do not know anything about Jim Crow, and you do not understand what is happening to us directly. You catch a little bit of an incident here and there because you look like us, and most people can't tell the difference, just like most Americans can't tell the difference between a Japanese, a Vietnamese, a Chinese. Do you understand where I'm going?
For sure.
So I'm gonna need everybody who's not a foundational American, Black American, to stay the hell out of my conversation. Understand it's not your place, and realize that we have things to do. I'm not saying that we're lazy. I'm saying no one is teaching us, and we rely too often on other people to handle what it is we need to handle.
All right, fellas. So now you heard it from the horse's mouth yourselves. I mean, this thing has been going on for quite some time now. Because that video clip that you saw with the lady, ADOS member, sitting down with Stephen Osunsami, talking about Cynthia Suluo as Harriet Tubman, which she won an Oscar for that role, as well as their stance on the issue of affirmative action and other things that they think was mainly reserved for African Americans. But these new arrivals, Black arrivals coming from the Caribbean and Africa, are now benefiting and also enjoying the same benefit that was mainly reserved for American descendants of slaves or / foundational Black Americans. So you guys heard exactly where the hair stance is on those issues. And these issues have been going for quite some time. And they've been talking about it for quite some time. And you know what? I don't fault their argument. They have some solid argument about these things in terms of affirmative action and, you know, some of these civil rights acts that were passed in the 60s and some of the civil rights that started way back in the mid 19th century as well. Talking about birthright citizenship and so on and so forth. All these things were naturally given to Black and people of slave descendants. That's a fact. So I don't fault people of slave descendants when they take that stand with regards to what they think was meant for them. But unfortunately, that argument is mute because when the laws were passed, even though it was specifically meant to correct the past wrongdoings against Black folks in America, it also gave these rights to all minorities. So we thank Black Americans, you know, especially those with slave ancestry, because at the end of the day, every citizen who has come to this country, who has benefited in this country, whether you are Asian, you are a Black dude from Africa or Caribbean, or European, to some extent, some Europeans. As a matter of fact, even the Jews also benefited from some of the civil rights laws. You know, religious freedom and religious rights and all these things, you know, so Muslims, it doesn't matter where you came from. Looking back at the history of the civil rights struggles, the civil rights struggles by Black Americans and how also shaped America that we know today. No migrant in America cannot say that they have not benefited from those struggles by our fellow Black Americans. Because everything that you see today, they paved the way for all of us from Africa, Caribbean, Middle East, Asia, India, wherever, to benefit from. So every immigrant in America today have benefited and continues to benefit from the struggles of American descendants of slave ancestors. Because they are the ones who pretty much paved the way for everybody, regardless of where you came from. As far as you're an immigrant, you're benefiting from it because of their struggles. And we acknowledge that. And I have no qualms about that. But it becomes a problem when you have a situation where Black folks who believe that because their ancestry goes back to the days of slavery, then every other Black person that migrates to this country, whether from the Caribbean or from Africa, from South America, wherever, don't have the right to say anything about black conditions or the situation that's going on in this country with regards to black issues. That's where I have an issue with this problem, with this whole interview that the guy did. I mean, he's a smart dude. He talks real nice about economic empowerment and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, if you are talking about black civil rights and you are saying that because some migrants, their parents don't have slavery ancestry in America and they don't have the right to speak on anything concerning black issues in America, then I don't know what you are talking about. Because history tells us that going back to the days of slavery, if slavery today, back then, was going to be abolished, then we can also go back to Haiti. Even Haiti is not part of America, United States of America. But let's not forget that it was through Haiti to Saint Louverture revolution against Napoleon's French in Haiti that pretty much raised the alarm bells to people like Thomas Jefferson and slave owners in the United States of America. As a matter of fact, during that revolution against the French, Thomas Jefferson, who happened to be also, I think he was once an ambassador to France under George Washington, wrote a letter to a guy named John Massey, as well as one to John Adams, talking about the revolution in Haiti and how that revolution in Haiti can also have an impact on American slavery. Thomas Jefferson made it clear. He said that, look, if we don't look at the issue of slavery in the United States of America, what is going on in Haiti definitely can transcend onto us in the United States of America as well. And Lord and behold, it did happen. The rebellion that took place in Virginia shortly after that Haitian Revolution, that rebellion was also attributed to what had happened in Haiti. And it was out of that Haitian Revolution that eventually also gave the way for the abolition of slavery. Nobody can dispute that. It is only a fool who would think that the Haitian Revolution did not have any impact on the abolition of slavery in the Western Hemisphere. I'm sorry, fellas. It did. The Haitian Revolution was the main foundation, the reason why slavery in the end was abolished in the Western Hemisphere. Because it sent alarm bells to these slave owners and their colonies. That you cannot hold these people. At some point, what had happened is going to trigger and happen in our own backyard and within our own countries. So it did play a role. So when you talk about, you don't want black migrants, recent migrants from Africa or the Caribbean, because they don't have the same chattel slavery experience that you guys had in America, that's even factually wrong. Because there was no difference between the Caribbean slaves and American slaves. The only difference was that they were living in different countries. By the end of the day, they were under colonies. So at the end of the day, even looking at it that way, slavery in the Caribbean, Haiti, Jamaica, was just as bad as slavery in America. And they were what? Interchanging, strategies on how to work on their slaves, both in the Caribbean, in the West Indies back then, and America. So at the end of the day, the experiences that the people in the Caribbean, Haiti, Bahamas, Barbados, Jamaica had during the days of slavery is not that different from the experiences that African Americans had in America. It was the same. At the end of the day, they were the same slave owners who were in the Caribbean. Some of them were in the Caribbean. They had same families in America who also owned slaves. And every strategy that they implied on the slaves in America was the same strategy that they used on the slaves in the Caribbean. So I'm sorry, fellas. So if you're talking about the recent African migrants don't share the same slave experience with African Americans. I get that. But when it comes to those from the Caribbean, there's not that much different. They were all under slavery. It was the same. But then when you also go ahead and say that, oh, you don't want these recent migrants to interject in terms of what is going on in the black community or American policies towards blacks and so on. I'm sorry, fellas. Because at the end of the day, black immigrants whose kids are born on this soil in the United States of America as American citizens are also affected by every decision that is made in this country with regard to being black. When the cop stops you on the street in America, they don't ask you whether your ancestry was a foundational black American or American descendant of slave. All they see is a black man down the street in America. And they treat you as such. Just like Barack Hussein Obama alluded to one time ago, talking about when they when he goes to New York and cops drive by him, they see him as a black man, not as an African a child with a white woman from Kansas. They see him as a black man, just like any other black man in America. And as a matter of fact, Obama made that comment or statement with regards to what had happened during the 2008 primary challenge to Hillary Clinton. And this is one of the saddest truth about this divide and conquer stuff. Because 2008, when Obama was running against Hillary Clinton, I was so vexed in that election. I was so vexed in it. So I followed it carefully, I did what I could, because, we were all for Obama. We all wanted to see a black man win this election, and eventually he won. But the saddest truth about it was that this same ugly divide and conquer issue creeped up 2008. When some folks, black folks, these were older black folks from southern states like Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, some groups, some of the old civil rights groups, leaders, wouldn't support Barack Hussein Obama on the same argument that these people of American descendants of slaves are making, that Barack Hussein Obama did not have slave ancestry. So he doesn't understand the struggles of the black Americans who have slave ancestry struggle and civil rights in America. This was the argument they made against Barack Obama. So these guys withheld their endorsement of Barack Hussein Obama and rather went with Hillary Clinton. As a matter of fact, some of them even went and said that Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, whom back then they used to say the first black president, had more knowledge about African American struggle in America than Barack Hussein Obama. That's how far some of these people went and said against Barack Obama. But unfortunately for them, the young folks, the college campuses, black young folks, students and HBCU schools and stuff, they did not fall for that. And they went in droves and supported Barack Hussein Obama. And eventually, Barack Hussein Obama became the president of the United States of America. And when he became president, I didn't hear anybody say that, oh, he's not a foundational black American. He's not an American descendant of slave, so he's not black. We all call him as what? The first black president of the United States of America. And his father is from Kenya. Africans did not claim against black Americans. We all called him as the first black American president of the United States of America. So when you hear these talk, what pretty much becomes a problem is when you have these young folks, these Gen Zs and millennials, who now are feeding into this kind of talk, where you have these groups now online talking about this FBA stuff, and they're trying to delineate themselves from other black folks just because, oh, your ancestors did not go through slavery, because your ancestors maybe came from Africa or came from the Caribbean, so you people are different. When we start dividing ourselves, then who does it go to help? It doesn't help the black cause in America, because at the end of the day, we have to be smarter about these things. And in a later interview, as he was talking he went ahead and mentioned Malcolm X as well as W.E. Du Bois. And I said, hold on, fellas. Malcolm X is a terror, like you people say, because his mother came from Grenada. Same with W. Du Bois. W. Du Bois' father is a Haitian. He came from Haiti. So now if you start saying that all these people, because they don't have black slavery ancestry in America, they cannot speak on behalf of African Americans in America, then where are we taking this conversation to? Because I can go down the list. Marcus Garvey wasn't from America. But when Marcus Garvey founded UNIA, guess who were members of UNIA? Majority, super majority African Americans in the South all the way to the North were members of UNIA. As a matter of fact, at some point, UNIA had more membership than NAACP, which was also founded by who? A terror, like you people call him then, call us, W. Du Bois, because his father came from Haiti, and he was the founding member or leader of NAACP as well. And then you talk about who? Stokely Carmichael, who also came from Trinidad. Talk about what's the guy? Colin Powell. Parents who were Jamaicans. Shirley Chisholm, first black woman to become congresswoman. First black congresswoman in America, 1969. Shirley Chisholm. Parents from Jamaica. Biggie Smalls. Christopher Wallace. Hip-hop mogul Biggie Small. Parents are from Jamaicans. So if we're going to be talking about, oh, these people, because their parents are not from here, they don't have the right to speak on behalf of what goes on in America against black folks, then I'm sorry. Are you going to tell me that all these people that I mentioned doesn't factor in the struggles in black America? Are you kidding me? All these folks I mentioned, from W. Du Bois. I mean, W.E. Du Bois, this who we are talking about, fellas. Malcolm X. Marcus Garvey. I mean, how many people can you say have more credentials in terms of civil rights against white abuse of black struggle in America than these folks? Stokely Carmichael, Louis Farrakhan, mother from St. Kitts, father from Jamaica. I mean, come on, fellas. It's about time. I mean, look, you can go down the list. Harry Belafonte, Sidney Poitier, all these guys. Parents came from the Caribbean or other parts that were black countries. And all these people, when they came here, when their parents came here, they didn't see themselves as different from the black folks in America. They contributed to the struggles. And their children took that mantle and fought with black folks in this country. Malcolm X in particular. Marcus Garvey. W. Du Bois. I mean, Malcolm X, we're talking about his mother. I mean, Malcolm X always says that the first education that you get as a child comes through your mother. And Malcolm X's mother was a key member of UNIA, founded by Marcus Garvey. So what are we talking about? It's about time we cut out this crap, man. I mean, I understand. I mean, nobody's saying that you don't have to have foundational black American or ADOS, I mean, American descendants of slaves. You can have the label. I mean, it's okay. It's all right. There's nothing wrong with that. You can distinguish your ancestry from others. But when now it becomes an issue, when people now are trying to say that, oh, because you are not a foundational black American, you don't have the right to talk about issues that affect black people in America, then that's a different ballgame. You know, I get it. Because in one of the interviews, the issue of reparations came up. And they talk about reparations are supposed to be meant for only people with American slave ancestry, which I get it, which is true. And I've never met any African, Caribbean, or black folk from anywhere in the world who says that, oh, they're coming to America because America is going to give reparations and when they come here, they'll get reparations. Everybody that I've met agrees that black folks are the ones who deserve American reparations. They deserve reparations more than any group in the United States of America. Because at the end of the day, the French got reparations from the Haitians. That's one thing nobody talks about. The people of Haiti had to pay the French reparations. But then when it comes to black Americans fighting for reparations, it becomes an issue in America. But black Americans deserve more reparations than anybody else. Because every other group that were victims of whether racial abuse victims or wars or whatever, talk about the Japanese or the Jews during the Second World War in Germany and all that stuff, all got some form of reparations, except the African American. So we get that. And we 100% agree with that. As an African, I don't deserve no reparations from America. And I don't think any African or Caribbean thinks that they deserve reparations from America. They don't, because we don't. But as a black Americans, foundational black Americans or American descendants of slaves, you are the ones who deserve that. And you have to get that. And nobody's arguing that give us something. No, because we don't. We didn't have to go through what you went through here. It was your ancestors that whatever reparation that you are getting through them. And you deserve to have that. You know, so we get it. We get it. But at the end of the day, let's also be clear and understand ourselves that as Africans or Caribbeans or black folks from South America, Brazil, or whatever, when we come to America, we appreciate your civil rights struggles and the contributions that you've done to this country and how we have all come to benefit from those civil rights and the struggles because of your tenacity to fight for every race that migrated into this country. It wasn't just black folks. Every other race, Hispanics or Asians from all over the world, immigrants who came later, have all benefited from your struggles. And we all appreciate that. And everybody appreciates that. But every now and then you hear one or two Africans, or Hispanics or, Asians who pretty much are ignorant about the history of this country. And I think that is where the pushback comes from some of these foundation black American groups and ADOS. And it's understandable because you have some ignorant Africans and some Hispanics and some Asians who come here and thump their nose on the black people. And they have every right to push back. And I think that's the reason why there's a lot of pushback, because some of these people go on social media and talk this nonsense about black folks because they don't know any better. They don't know any better. They are ignorant because they don't know the history of this country. And they have not decided, taking the time to learn the history. So they come up and say some dumb stuff on social media, talk about black folks are lazy and all that nonsense. And out of that also, it makes black people angry. And some of these groups take that upon other black migrants, which is very unfortunate. Because at the end of the day, after all is said and done, these groups, FBA, ADOS, they are very small minority. Very, 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 a fraction. I mean, you talk about very, very small. Majority of black folks in America align with black folks from the Caribbean, from Africa, from all over the world. Majority of black folks align with that. And they all understand that the black struggle in America cannot be divided into groups. Because at the end of the day, if you divide a black struggle in America into groups, we're not going to be able to win this struggle. Because when you divide ourselves into groups, then the person that you're fighting against or the rights that you are fighting for can always also be taken away from you by these people who hold the power to make sure that things work on everybody's behalf. And that is why this issue of a foundational black American as well as American descendant of slaves, there's nothing wrong with that. if you want to have labels for yourselves, and be proud of your ancestry, there's nothing wrong. It's a good thing. But when it comes to in terms of uniting as Black people in the United States of America to fight for the same rights that your ancestors fought for, because the struggle continues. I mean, the struggle continues. The struggle is not going to stop. And at some point, you got to remember also that these migrants' kids, that some of you people call theaters, are now also going to be in a position of power that they can also contribute to the struggle. Because when I see my kids and I see other African kids and Caribbean kids and African American kids, there are no difference. They are all the same Black folks in America. And guess what, fellows? If you look at these great institutions in America, Harvard and all these top schools and Black doctors in America, majority of them are Nigerians. Majority of them are Nigerians. Number one, Black doctors in America are Nigerians. But do you think these Nigerian doctors are sitting in the hospital saying that, oh, because I'm from Nigeria and I live in America, I don't care about the struggle of Black Americans? No. They don't think like that. They consider themselves to be Black. And their children are Black Americans just like any other Black American. So that's what it is, fellows. That's what it is. It is unfortunate, but at the end of the day, when you hear these young folks, especially the young folks, that's where it becomes very dangerous. Because when young folks start feeding into these things, trying to delineate themselves from the people they sit in the same classrooms with, in their various schools, in their communities. They say, oh, because your parents are from Nigeria, your parents are from Haiti, your parents are from Jamaica, oh, you are different. And we are different. That becomes a problem. And divide and conquer is the tool that was used during the days of slavery to divide us and to make sure that they can control us, and as well as during the days of colonization. And it's still working. And we shouldn't feed into it. All right, fellas, if it's Sunday, it's the Africa Weekly Talk. God bless you guys and have a great week. Thank you and peace and love.